G'day everybody, welcome to the panel where we look at the world through the frame of the comic book. My name is Jason Badower, I'm a comic book artist for DC Comics, currently working on the Black Label graphic novel Joker Harley Criminal Sanity Volume 2. You can find Volume 1 at your local comic book store. I am joined today by Marvel Living Library and one of my best buds on the planet, Scott Stuart. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing great, buddy, doing great. Looking forward to deeper diving into Deadpool and Wolverine.
There is so much to cover for Deadpool and Wolverine. And I know what you're thinking. The movie was a couple hours long. You've already chatted for an hour. What else is there to talk about? And can I just tell you, I have so many questions that I want to ask Scott that I'm so eager to discuss today to really just go through and do a scene-by-scene breakdown of Deadpool and Wolverine. Now, Scott, one of the things that you said last week is that when we did our tier list, Scott's big asterisk, his only reservation, he put it at 8th place out of all 27 movies. You've now seen the movie how many more times this week, Scott? And where do you land on it now?
I've watched it once more. It has not moved in my estimation. I had just as good a time with it the second time around as I did the first, I think. I really enjoy this movie.
I don't want to plug our last video, but I'm going to plug our last video because watching it the first time, I was really overwhelmed by a whole bunch of stuff coming at you at 1,000,000 miles per hour. What I discovered after my conversation with you was a much deeper insight into the movie as a whole. That when I watched it again this week, I think this is now my third time, I enjoyed it even more. Now really having a better idea of what Wolverine did and what happened to him when you get the final sacrifice moment really hit me emotionally a lot more than it did the first two times. So I'm really grateful for that. So anybody out there that's feeling that way, I'm really proud of that conversation. I felt like it really improved the film's estimation in my eyes. I might even move mine up. But as I said, that big chunk between 7 and 17 for me, that middle third, as you would put it, is all interchangeable for me. They are absolutely equal footing in my eyes. One of the things that really got me is sometimes you get movies that are built on character arcs and story structure, and I really feel like this movie is very much built upon Easter eggs. That is the scaffolding, it is the mortar, it is the bricks. There is some character arcs underneath there, but I really feel like it is made up of that. And one of the things that really gets me, Scott, do you remember Stan Lee's philosophy on comic books, on first-time readers?
Every issue is somebody's first.
I believe that this is the first superhero movie that doesn't believe that. Every other movie, they recap stuff, they tell you who people are, they make sure that if somebody's mentioned, that they're going to tell you and explain to you who that person is. I don't believe Deadpool and Wolverine does that. And as we go scene by scene through it, I want to just bring up a couple points where for the person that does not know anything about or has not watched all these movies, isn't going to know what the heck is going on with some of these points. There was also a moment for me where I felt like that person, which I'm also going to point out a massive reference that I didn't get just by the nature of my pop cultural upbringing. I believe that this movie does not care whether you've seen anything before. That, as I said, sometimes you just pick up a comic book and it is so good and you're just drawn into it, even though you don't know anything that's going on. And maybe this movie could work for people like that.
I'm surprised how approachable the movie is because, as you say, its reason d'etre is to talk about things that have come before it and how Goliath worked in the plot with no actual explanation, just a lampshade on where that information can be found, like an old editor's note in the bottom corner of the panel. I was concerned about that, but audiences seem to have really responded to the film. And you can't imagine that everybody's seen everything.
And especially what we said before is that because this is aimed at people who are 18 plus, chances are that over the course of your 18 years minimum, you have seen at least some of these movies, that you've gone through the 16-year history of Marvel Comics and you've managed to catch up on a whole bunch of these references. Maybe you've watched a whole bunch of the Fox stuff too. But yeah, otherwise, I don't think the movie cares. It just steps on the accelerator and just takes off and you can either keep up or don't. And I still think the movie is good enough and fun enough that it doesn't matter. But again, I don't know. I don't have that objectivity to be able to say that. All right, Scott, the movie opens. I like Logan. I like it a lot. But unlike you, I don't love it, but I hugely respect it and consider it one of the most important superhero films ever. And also one of our sacred cows. And now we have, in Deadpool's words, the desecration of a sacred cow and sullying his memory, and also one of your favorite superhero movies. Paul asks at one point, what are you, the internet? Scott, today you are the internet. What did you think of that opening scene, man?
Firstly, as the internet, I apologize for making everybody's life measurably worse. I thought it was a fantastic opening. It was self-aware, it was responding to the audience, it was concerned with what came before it. It was exactly the sort of move you expect from Deadpool.
We've spoken before about how we are very much the target audience for this film. And on one hand, I was equally shocked and horrified and clutching my pearls two-fisted. And on the other hand, just really enjoying and laughing my ass off at everything that we're doing. I thought the using the adamantium bones to kill everybody with was just so creative, really well done. Just gets you off on the perfect tone for this movie. But this also establishes for me, this is my first piece of evidence to state why this movie does not care that you've seen anything before. If you have not seen Logan, what the hell's going on? Whose grave is that? Why is Wolverine dead? How did he die? I thought I just paid my money to watch a Wolverine movie and he's already dead. What's going on? I do think there is enough of perhaps what would you call it, like a Chekhov's gun, enough of an anticipation to be like, how is this going to be answered, to maybe get people moving through? But on the other hand, as an actual piece of media dealing with its main character in a very specific situation, it's just, I don't care. You either get it or you don't. Let's move along. Exhibit A.
Yeah, let's separate the men from the boys right off the bat. And it's not as though it false advertised anything. It told you the sort of movie you were in for and then proceeded to deliver.
And as I said before, I really like Wade in this movie. I think he's far more palatable. I really got him. There's that moment too which really sold it for me when they confront Cassandra Nova. And he's just like, hey, would you like to chime in, Your Highness? I am drowning here, or I'm dying here. And that for me really summarized a lot of what Wade is like. He's like me and just terrified of silence and just filling the void with endless, constant banter. And I really, again, as he's digging the grave, I noticed that I Like Me cup, which comes from the TVA agent. He must have stolen it as he falls backwards. But I think it's also really appropriate for Wade's sort of arc in this movie. When you watch the movie again, do you have any more thoughts on that, why they put that cup there and what that cup means?
Wade's chief concern in the movie is being worthy of Vanessa, of finding a place in the world. A lot of that really does have to do with finding a way to like yourself. Here's our thesis statement, and here's us desecrating a corpse.
Just Wade's whole arc as a character, I've really started to understand who he is, what makes him tick. Just the whole idea that he starts out as a special forces guy, makes a whole bunch of questionable decisions, becomes a hitman, meets a girl, falls in love, gets cancer, tries to cure it, gets turned into a completely disfigured mutant, and then just runs out of steam when there's absolutely nothing to do. One of the things that we said last time is that when you have Wade constantly having something to do in the comic books, he doesn't get a second to actually breathe. But in the movies, nothing's happened to him. An idea that I touched on that I didn't fully expand on last time is that I really resonated with the idea of Wade's perfection. He's like, all right, I need to matter. I need to put a step forward. So he jumps universes or time slides universes, as you told me last week, goes to the 616 universe and applies to become an Avenger, goes for the biggest thing you could possibly go for, gets knocked back. Goes, all right, I'm going to go apply to be an X-Men. Gets knocked back from that also. And then he just stops because he realizes if I can't take the two most perfect steps forward, then I'm just not going to walk at all. And I really resonate with that sort of level of perfectionism where I sometimes get paralyzed by indecision because I'm like, what is the best thing to do? I end up doing nothing sometimes. And so watching that again, that place that he was in really resonated with me on the later watches.
The great is the enemy of the good.
Perfect is the enemy of done also is another one that always comes to mind when I think about my comics. Because as we're drawing, I always also say a page is only as strong as its weakest panel, which sort of, yes, I don't fully believe in anymore. But sometimes you just don't get time. That's it. It's done. Like the deadline just hit. You ran out of time, sunshine, like time to move on. And I feel like Wade wanting to make as much of an impact because he holds Vanessa in such high esteem. So he wants to do the biggest and best thing possible to show how much he loves her, to show how much he can matter and be worthy to her, that he applies for the Avengers and the X-Men. And then when he can't, he just really just falls into his own pity party. So I really dug that on the second watching.
He really needed somebody to tell him to take the pity out of his mouth.
If only there was a character like that. You messaged me something before about James Mangold on WhatsApp. What was that about?
Oh, it's a quote from the movie. It just popped me. I think,
what was the quote?
I think it's during the fight. Wolverine in the Odyssey. Wolverine says, make it stop. And Deadpool says, Mangold tried.
I completely missed that. Because talking of James Mangold, who directed Logan, apparently Hugh Jackman called him up and explained the scene to him and what they wanted to do. And Mangold just said, look, as long as nothing you do affects Logan, go for it. And Jackman was just like, no, I would never. I guess technically the movie ended. And so he's able to do whatever they want with his body, with just a whiff of necrophilia, as he puts it. It really is just a ton of fun, that opening scene, and becomes more and more fun every future watch.
I don't think it was as strong as the opening scenes from either of the first two Deadpool movies, though. I don't think Sean Levy brings the quality of creative filmmaking that Tim Miller and David Leitch did.
Really, I do not think is as good as Deadpool 1, the opening. I think it is far better than the opening of Deadpool 2. If you're thinking about Deadpool 2's montage, where he goes on his killing hitman rampage through Hong Kong and Japan or as a stripper and stuff like that.
Yeah, the opening murder montage into the James Bond theme parody.
Yeah, I get you rated Deadpool 2 higher than you did Deadpool and Wolverine, which I don't agree with. For me, it's Deadpool 1, then this, then Deadpool 2. Is that still the case for you?
Yes, although I'm not locked into that. I was really surprised how much fun I had with Deadpool and Wolverine on the second viewing. How affecting the conclusion was on the second viewing. So things might shuffle around. But I do like Deadpool 2 more than most people.
Yes, that's Scott's albatross to bear, his cross to carry through for the rest of his life, that he just doesn't have any taste.
Look, that's fine. If you want to malign my taste, remember who I choose to be friends with.
This is true. And again, you can just see from our different tastes when you look at the tier list, which is over there. I think I'm going to put it over here. I'm starting to get my directions down. And you'll see that there are some movies that Scott and I have very different views on. Guardians of the Galaxy #2 and on Spider-Man Homecoming, which I irrationally love. And Scott has put it in a very reasonable place instead. One of the things that Ryan Reynolds is constantly doing is his Hugh Jackman impersonation, which blows my mind that Deadpool knows that he's Wolverine, but also an actor from Australia who plays Wolverine, who plays Logan. And one of the things that he does is when he's playing with the jaw and it's just nothing will bring me back faster than a big bag of Marvel cash, and he tries to Aussie it up. Scott, given that we're both Aussie, I have a very mild Australian accent, but if you want to, shall we try and Aussie it up?
Nothing will bring me back faster than a big bag of Marvel cash.
That was really good. Here you go, people. You can overdub that over on your copy next time. You just press play on that little slice as the movie's coming up next time.
Why would anybody ever do that?
I will, Scott. I will. I have that ready on my phone to just supersede Ryan Reynolds.
And again, you're attacking my taste.
We are only halfway done with this episode, but afterwards, please consider checking out our Road to Deadpool and Wolverine, where we did some really fun deep dives into Wolverine Origins, X1, X2, The Wolverine, and Logan before jumping to Deadpool 1 and 2. There is also a whole bunch of MCU videos and also philosophical conversations about whether superheroes should kill. Please consider subscribing, as this is the first of our Deadpool and Wolverine scene analysis videos. There are plenty more coming, and I think they're pretty fun. And if you're also enjoying yourself, for a beginning channel like mine, hitting that like button is the YouTube equivalent of buying me dinner, but at no cost to you. Thank you in advance. I really appreciate you. All right, back to Deadpool and Wolverine. So then the TVA enters. How did that hit you when the doorways started opening up and the TVA started pouring out immediately at the start of the film?
I like the new uniforms, and I thought they updated the costumes, gave them a real menace. It was another thing that, we're going to name these, but we're not going to really explain who and what they are. But you don't need to. If they were Hydra agents and they just said, oh, that's Hydra, and then fought them, we would have got the exact same result and all the explanation you need in that moment.
What's the term when you come in halfway through a scene, or as late as possible into a scene?
In media res.
Thank you. Coming in media res, literally to the story, to the world. You absolutely don't know anything that's going on. We did 3 giant videos on Loki, and in my one that I did by myself, because I did not want to subject Scott to my nitpicking rant of Loki. And that is one of the things that I think the TVA is one of the most nonsensical organizations, especially in the field. It makes absolutely zero sense to send people with sticks to take down, a rogue Thanos that's decided to mess with the timeline? And we saw exactly what happened here when they just try and take out a rogue Deadpool, and they got absolutely mauled. And there was a part of me that is acknowledging the loss of human life that's happening in front of me, and another part of me that was feeling really vindicated watching these idiots get absolutely curb stomped by Deadpool.
I don't mind that the organization doesn't make sense. Much of superhero fiction doesn't make sense if you want to try and put it in the real world. But so it's one of those things that I accept without question as part of the genre.
It's one of those things too in Logan when they started hunting Laura and they turn up at Logan's compound and they bring assault weapons to try and take her in. And Boyd Holbrook, playing as Donald Pierce, says, no, don't shoot her, don't shoot her. What did you bring to this? Later on, he has a turret-mounted hook gun or something like that he fires through Wolverine's leg that I believe was also supposed to be for Laura. But again, she could just slice the head off it unless you've made it out of adamantium. You brought the completely wrong weapons to this fight. They've been stalking Deadpool. They know his superpowers and his super strength. Sending normal humans to go take out Deadpool is one of the dumbest things you could possibly do. Why does no one just even think to bring some sort of gun or flamethrower or God knows what else? Like, even just tase him. Tasing him is the best way to take Deadpool.
You combine the stick into a taser and it fires the thing out and hits them to send them into thingo. There's ways to do it.
Absolutely. And did not do that at all. As we go through, I'm going to pull out some of my favorite lines. One of my favorite lines is there are 206 bones in the human body, 207 if I'm watching Gossip Girl, which, come on, you got to give a shout out to your wife there. Ryan's doing it right.
One of two shout outs to his wife, and I believe Blake played Lady Deadpool.
She did. That would be part of my contract, to be like, we're going to get Blake to play Lady, and yes, she's going to get paid, but she's also going to be taking that costume home later. It's like, there's no way.
Even if she didn't want to, it was happening.
I'm not saying Ryan would, but if I was in Ryan's shoes, Mr. Reynolds' shoes, that is absolutely what I would be doing if you're having an absolutely perfect Deadpool costume being made for your very good-looking wife. There is a third shout-out, and that is Kid Deadpool is being played by one of his kids. So that's the second bit of nepotism in the movie.
So this ultra-violent sex comedy is really about family after all.
Then we come to the only reference in the movie that I didn't understand. This is how I guess most people must have felt when they watched Deadpool and Wolverine. I didn't understand what he was dancing to and why he was dancing to NSYNC's Bye Bye Bye. I've even watched the videos since and I still don't understand. Do you have any insight into that, or did that chunk of pop culture just go sailing past you also?
On a general note, I loved all the needle drops in this movie. Perfectly chosen, again, seemingly aimed at me. I thought it was a reference to X-Men 1. Or no, it's 2, where they escape the mansion in Scott's car and they start it up and it's playing Bye 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 from NSYNC.
What are you doing?
Is it really? That is fantastic. I do remember now that it was NSYNC, but I've completely forgot that's what they were playing back then. Oh my God, nice call. I also wondered too if it was like non-fan baiting to be able to be like for people that, for other partners that got dragged along by their fanboy or fangirl to the, or fan person to the movie, and then just being like, what am I doing here? And they finally play something that actually has a relatively wide cultural impact for normies.
It's always a good idea to make as much of your audience comfortable and included as possible, particularly when you're going to spend 2 hours confusing the shit out of them.
So true. Quick shout out to Nick Pauly, who was Dance Paul. That is not actually Ryan dancing there, which broke what's left of my shattered black heart.
I'm surprised that's all it took.
And then we get that quick flashback through time, which sort of catches you up on Deadpool, but not really, because if you haven't seen it, you're not going to get any of that stuff anyway. And I guess if you have seen it, it's only 3 or 4 seconds of the movie that reminds you of everything that sort of happened. And then we get to the Happy Hogan, the most essential scene in the movie that asks 3 key questions of Deadpool. When you were watching this scene, though, when you started seeing all the stuff in the background, there was a long forgotten model that posits that we used to have a lizard part of our brain. That is not accurate. But I do believe there was a nerd part of our brain. What was the nerd part of your brain doing during that scene, looking at everything in the background?
Masturbating. It was frantically looking at every corner of the screen and trying not to miss anything, and trying to piece it all back, get my nerd cred going by going, that's the coveted Secret Wars, and things like that. I enjoy having a tableau like that to pause through, and like a list of names on a computer screen. It's half mutants and half production staff, and piecing that out. And yeah, it's a lot of fun. It rewards fandom, and it's a real indication that the filmmakers are fans, and it engenders real trust in fans, something that Marvel in general is really pretty good at.
My eyes were also just searching all over the screen, trying to catch every little Easter egg. I think it's why on the first watching the movie, a lot of the emotional beats, especially Wade's emotional beats, were completely lost on me because they're all thematically set up here. Why are you here? Can you work with the team? And why do you want to do this? And while he's asking these absolutely essential questions, we are being distracted by everything that's going on in the background, as well as the hilarious banter that's going on between him and Happy. Because I got to say, outside of a healing factor, I will take super parallel parking any day of the week. And so on one hand, it was absolutely awesome seeing all this stuff in the background. On the other hand, it distracted me just enough that I missed the entire point of the movie on my first watch through. This is my brain. It's not big enough to take both these things in. I'm a guy, I can't multitask.
I thought it was like a meta joke on the whole IP management aspect to this movie. When you've got the photo of Tony with Peter, but Peter's obscured by the toy mask he was wearing in that, now we've retconned it as him scene from Iron Man 2.
I thought that was the only piece that was in the room that I thought was super strange. What, did Peter hang on to it, or did Tony have a bunch or lying around in a warehouse somewhere after the incident? And then was just like, and Peter was like, hey, I was there and that was me. And Tony's just like, oh, that's sweet. I'll just pop that there. I think that is Peter's mask. That is absolutely Peter's mask from Iron Man 2. The production team just doing an absolutely brilliant job of dressing that set. Obviously, there's a lot of times that you've mentioned in the past, a lot of the Easter eggs that we get are just the production department entertaining themselves. This I felt was far more calculated in what they were doing. The costume department, though, what Wade is wearing is absolutely perfect, because that's what you wear when you don't actually own a suit and you have to go to a job interview. I'm sure I wore something like that very early on in my career, and I love that little. I thought that was a piece of detail that I really enjoyed. One of the things that I learned going on our road to Deadpool and Wolverine was Wolverine's great tragic flaw is that he cannot stop caring. He tries to pull himself away and out of situations, and he doesn't want to be involved, and he finds the girl in the back of his truck as he's driving through the Canadian Rockies, and he tells her to walk, and then when he sees she has nowhere to go, he stops. And that is the impetus for the entire film. The Wolverine, X-Men 1 and 2, even Origins, all these movies are because Wolverine cares. And one of the first things that Wade also says in answer to why you're here is because I care. And I genuinely believe he does. I don't know if the earlier Wade's cared in that way. Do you feel like Wade has changed and evolved or in that way, or is this something that he's always had in his personality?
I think he's always had it, and Wolverine isn't terribly comfortable with that vulnerability and tries to hide it and downplay it using different techniques. Wolverine literally pickles himself, and Wade just demolishes everything with cutting barbs and biting wit. It's the same urge from inside them, though, to answer the gap that empathy creates with some pretty toxic coping mechanisms.
Yeah, it's true. They both really have really negative ways of dealing with it. And I feel that's almost their consistency that brings them together. They both care deeply, but don't know how to actually manifest that. One of the things that Wade was very much looking for was some guidance on how to do that. On one level, he was like, okay, I'm going to approach the Avengers and they're going to teach me how to do this. And then he gets knocked back. So it's like, all right, I'm going to approach the X-Men and they're going to teach me how to care and how to manifest that. And they knock him back. And what I love too is that Happy's line of just aim for the middle is that it ends up taking the worst Wolverine to teach him how to manifest that level of care. And also that journey also reminds Logan on how to do that. Again, on the first watch, all this stuff coming at you at a million miles an hour, all this stuff just ran off me like water on a duck's back. But on the second and third watching, I was able to put some of the spectacle aside or not have to just be searching around the screen for all the Easter eggs and really pay attention to what they were saying around the jokes also. And I think the movie, between all this stuff, lands really well if you can somehow not be distracted by all this stuff.
It certainly helps that Ryan, and especially Hugh, very good at creating a bond with the audience, a rapport with the audience. The performances are so real and so full of emotion and so compelling that you have no trouble following the emotional arc. Yeah, you had to pay a little bit of attention to get the plot around that to flow in the same rate.
It's so true. When Ryan has to bring it, he can really bring it. You and I constantly give him a little bit of crap for playing the same character. But on the other hand, as we've also established, if someone brings a dump truck of money to my door and says, hey, be yourself, you're not going to say no. But when he has to really dive into those levels of hurt, I really feel that he does that in these movies. There are a couple times when you look in his eyes and he's genuinely hurt or does not know what to do, or you can really see the care or the love and the inability to communicate those emotions. You really get that from him, even through all the makeup. And it's really underappreciated work.
Two of the most charismatic people currently headlining major movies, playing off each other, and by all reports and everything that came across on the screen, really enjoying the role and working with each other, challenging and elevating the material. It's that sort of alchemy that elevates a film from, yeah, that was pretty good, and you never think about it again, to something that lands and resonates in a deeper way around all the just nerd in jokes that we're primed to bounce off on a surface level. Those aren't the reason this movie is good. Those are the fried onions on top of the really tasty hot dog.
There is so much spectacle going on that to actually appreciate what these two actors are doing is really great, and is what gives this film an unprecedented level of depth for me. I feel that Deadpool here is absolutely my favorite Deadpool across all three movies. I still do think that Deadpool 1 is a better movie, but my review for that also is that I found Deadpool really grating in that movie. In this movie, I really like the cruising altitude that they found for him, that he was able to be a person with real emotions and humanity while still also being able to be his fourth wall breaking self in a really enjoyable way that wasn't as cruel as he used to be. But I felt he gave enough self-deprecating barbs that sort of softened the barbs that he threw out at other people. I thought it was a really nice balance in this movie, and I enjoyed it. I really hope if there's anything they take from this movie, they can find that Deadpool alchemy again and keep that moving forward, because I'm finally a Deadpool fan after this movie.
The scene with Blind Al, where he discusses the only thing Feige said is no cocaine, which, you know, there's more cocaine in this than there was in Deadpool 1, slightly less than Deadpool 2. There's your cocaine ranking for the three Deadpool films. But
I think Iron Man 1 might be the only other one that might have some allusions to cocaine. I'm pretty sure Rhodey and Tony weren't just drinking on the plane there.
But the irony of that joke for me is that there is no way that was Feige's one thing. They sanded off so many edges to make Wade more sympathetic as a character, and to not, they totally de-sexed the movie, the character, and the relationships in there. And I think taking away the real nasty edge that he did have in more the first one than the second, but it was still there. It was not an accident. It was something that was deliberately considered and done on purpose to get more of the audience on side with Wade.
That is the perfect segue into the sexuality that is in this movie, because as Wade goes to work, he opens up his locker and we see two books there. The first one is Start Diving, and the second one is The Canadian Mounted Northern Nymph, which I managed to track down, and I have the blurb on the back if you'd like me to read it. It is one short sentence and then one very long sentence with multiple commas.
I would very much like to hear this pithy and well-crafted summary of what must undoubtedly be some very fine literature indeed.
Here we go. This is the back of what Deadpool was reading. The Canadian Mounted Northern Nymph, Anne-Marie, is sexually very free. Throughout the land of Canada, many men have had her. Some are famous, some are shady, but they all admit she's one horny lady. Is the actual back of the book. Good luck to them. I hope you're enjoying yourself, Wade. My goodness, that was some spiciness. Woo! I'm gonna have to go take a cold shower and not think of Canada, which is also cold up north. Northern Nymph. Huge thanks to Michael Flowers, author of The Canadian Mounted, The Northern Nymph. If you want to mount that like button, it would be a consensual agreement between you and me. Next episode, we're going to dig into Wade's friendship with Peter and what that means for Wade and the movie. We'll dig into why I think the party is the second most important scene, and also, unfortunately, at best, a sorely missed goal, and at worst, a massive failure. Subscribe if you don't want to miss that. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Check the notes below for a little hint before you leave. And now, for a word from our sponsor. How do you hang out with your friends? Restaurants, bars, clubs, maybe over at someone's house just staring at a TV screen, or just sort of hanging out. And if you sit around watching a movie, that's cool, but you're not really talking. I still, hand on my heart, believe that the best way to hang out with your friends is to play a role-playing game. Unlike a board game, role-playing games are not competitive. They are cooperative. You and your friends actually hanging out and creating stories and moments that you'll look back on and laugh at together. But the worst thing about role-playing games is getting started. There's a lot of rules, and being the games master takes a heck of a lot of preparation time each week. Enter GameMastersForHire.com. If you've always wanted to play Dungeons & Dragons, GameMastersForHire.com are experts at teaching you all the rules while taking you on an epic adventure. And if you're loving it, you can play the same character every session, who will then get more and more powerful. If you're a wannabe dungeon or game master, there's no faster way to learn and be great at it than booking a training session with GameMastersForHire.com. For the experienced D&D groups out there, if you're looking for a special birthday gift for your DM, The best gift you can give is to let them be a player for a change by booking a birthday adventure. GameMastersForHire.com will make sure the guest of honor is treated like a hero on their special day. Game Masters for Hire can also run games for anyone, from dinner parties to kids' parties, corporate events, bachelor or bachelorette nights, to ongoing campaigns every week where you play the same character every session. It's like a story that you're building with your friends. GameMastersForHire.com are available online, which is how I play with them. But if you live in the greater Los Angeles area, they can do in-person games with miniatures and sets that'll blow your mind. Please visit GameMastersForHire.com for more information. Reach out to Ollie and his team and they'll help you out, whatever you need. And just like going out to dinner, split the cost between the lot of you. I'll even kick in. Just use my offer code BADOWER for 10% off your first game. I promise you're going to have an amazing time that you'll always remember. Thank you, GameMastersForHire.com, for sponsoring this video. Do you have a beverage for today?
I do. To celebrate the end of our road to Deadpool and Wolverine, I picked the Yellow Brick Road from the Mountain Culture Brewery.
Because The Wizard of Oz was the first multiverse breaking movie, and all the gays knew it and known it ever since. End quote.
I haven't seen Wizard of Oz since I was a kid, to be honest. A lot of that's going over my head, how it's a multiverse thing.
It's the idea that it is a multiversal reality compared to normal Earth reality. And that's pretty much the first multiversal film. At least I hope Rhett Reese, Paul Wernick, Ryan Reynolds, Sean Levy, and Zeb Wells did their research, because I'm just parroting them. Guys, don't let me down and don't make me look like an idiot. Obviously, Logan is from Canada. And as the TVA agent says, that the only thing worth a damn to come out of Canada, paraphrasing without the swearing, I did not realize that Deadpool was also born in Canada, in Regina, Canada. At one stage.
I believe it's Regina, and the joke is that it's pronounced Regina and it rhymes with pussy.
I believe Ryan Reynolds put that up on a sign somewhere. So I decided to represent. With all the Canadians, I decided to find myself a Canadian beer. We have here Labatt. We have a Labatt Blue. I haven't tried this. Go on in.
Drum roll, please.
It's really nice. It's a Pilsner. Super crispy, good level of flavor, but not too overwhelming. Absolutely slam that in a hard day and will accompany this stream very nicely. There we go. I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate and respect every second of your valuable time that you watch these videos, how much I enjoy every comment, and how every single time you hit that like button. It's like pouring rocket fuel into this channel's engine. No joke, it really helps massively. Thank you again so much. And this series is going to keep going. We are episode 1 and barely 13 minutes into this movie. If you want to catch the next episode, please hit that subscribe button, and that notification bell will let you know as soon as episode 2 goes live. If you want to know more about me, you could check out jasonbadow.com to see more of my artwork and my convention appearances. If you dig my artwork, I've got a Patreon at patreon.com/jasonbadow, where I send out exclusive prints and do monthly sketches. If you want to read my stories, Joker, Harley, Criminal Sanity, my real-world take on the Joker and Harley Quinn, it's been getting some pretty great reviews on Amazon.com. And you can also check it at your local comic shop at comicshoplocator.com. And there's also a ton of videos on the MCU that Scott and I have done together, and a bunch of video essays that I've done myself. The earlier stuff you might want to watch at 1.25 speed, but it's all good stuff, and I'm really proud of it. Holy cow, you were at the end. You made it. This is the end credits Marvel No Prize. I love you. Thank you.